You have seen the pyramids of Giza 1,000 times, in photographs, in documentaries. On a screen in front of you right now, maybe, without even trying. They are the most photographed monument on Earth. Tourists stand in the exact same spot every single day, cameras raised, capturing the exact same image that millions of people have already captured before them. But the real answer is far stranger than that. The pyramids were never built to be looked at by you. Not by anyone standing where you'd stand. Not up close, not in detail. Not even by most ancient Egyptians. So who were they actually for? And what does it mean that almost everything you experience about them today is an accident? Let's go back 4,500 years, before a single stone was stacked. When the Great Pyramid was finished around 2560 BCE, it did not look the way it looks now. The blocks you see today, rough, sand-colored, eroded, were never meant to be visible. They are the skeleton. The actual finished surface was a smooth shell of polished white limestone quarried at Tura, on the opposite bank of the Nile. Workers hauled it across the river, cut each block to fit with almost no gap between them, and wrapped the entire structure in a casing so smooth it would have looked from a distance like a single solid piece of light. Picture that for a second, a 480-foot mountain of polished white stone, capped at its tip with gold or electrum, throwing the sun back across the desert. Not a building, a beacon. The Czech Egyptologist Miroslav Werner spent decades examining the surviving fragments of that casing, the small patches that still cling to the base of the pyramid today. His research helped confirm just how precise that surface really was. Some of the joints between casing blocks were less than a millimeter wide. On a structure raised without iron tools, without pulleys, without the wheel for hauling stone, that is not decoration. That is obsession. But obsession for who? Not for the workers who built it. Not for travelers passing on the road below. The Egyptians built the pyramid to be seen by something far larger than a person standing at its base. They built it to be seen from above, by the sun, by the stars, by the gods. Because the pyramid was never really a building, not in the way you think about buildings. It was a machine, a resurrection machine. Its entire purpose was to take a dead king and turn him into something eternal. Every angle, every shaft, every sealed chamber inside it was engineered toward that single outcome. Not to impress a visitor. To work the way an engine works, whether or not anyone is there to watch it run. Think about the shafts. 2 narrow channels run from the king's chamber, deep inside the pyramid, out toward the exterior surface. They are too small for a person to crawl through, too precise to be accidental. Researchers have shown they align with specific points in the sky, one toward Orion's belt, one toward the northern stars that never set, the ones the Egyptians believed never died. The Egyptians believed the king's soul, his Ka, would rise up through these shafts and join those eternal stars forever. Not photographed, not visited, used, quietly, by an audience that was never going to need a camera. Think about what that meant for the people who built it. A laborer hauling limestone up a ramp in the desert heat was not building a tourist attraction. He was building a piece of cosmic machinery he might never fully understand, for a king he would never speak to, aimed at a sky he could only point toward and trust. Texts later carved inside other pyramids, what scholars now call the pyramid texts, describe the king climbing a ladder of light, crossing a lake of reeds, becoming a star among stars. None of that imagery was written for the living to read on a tour. It was written on the inside of sealed walls, in chambers no living eye was meant to revisit, recited for an audience of one dead king and whatever gods might be listening. Doesn't that change how you picture the whole structure? Not as architecture, as a kind of prayer, frozen in stone, built to keep transmitting long after everyone who built it was gone. And here is where it gets stranger still. The chambers themselves were not meant to be entered again. Ever. Once the king's body and his grave goods were sealed inside, the pyramid was meant to close for good. Granite plugs were lowered into the descending passage behind the burial party as they left. The true entrance was disguised, sometimes hidden so well it was indistinguishable from the surrounding casing. The builders were not constructing a monument for future generations to walk through and admire. They were sealing a door they expected to stay sealed for the rest of time. Did it work? Almost the opposite happened. For thousands of years, the interior sat untouched, quietly doing exactly what it was built to do, holding the king in his arrangement with the cosmos. Then, in 1765, a British consul named Nathaniel Davison discovered a low crawl space above the king's chamber that had sat hidden for over 4,000 years. It is still called Davison's chamber. It was never meant to be found by anyone. It was one of a series of relieving chambers, built only to spread the crushing weight of the stone above the burial chamber so the ceiling would not collapse under its own mass. No one was ever supposed to stand inside it and look around. It was an engineer's secret, hidden in plain stone, doing structural work no audience was ever meant to witness. Even the internal architecture beneath the surface raises the same question over and over. How did workers move 2.5-ton blocks up a structure this size without modern machinery? The French architect Jean-Pierre Houdin proposed in 2007 that the builders used an internal spiral ramp, hidden inside the body of the pyramid itself, visible in faint anomalies picked up by infrared and microgravimetry scans. The theory remains debated, but notice what it implies if it's true. Even the method of construction may have been designed to vanish, swallowed back into the structure the moment the final stone was set, leaving no trace of how the impossible thing was made. A pyramid that hides its own pulse, a monument that erases its own scaffolding. Mark Lenner, who has spent over 4 decades mapping Giza in extraordinary detail through his Giza Plateau mapping project, has shown something that reframes the entire site. The pyramids were never isolated tombs, sitting alone in an empty desert. They were the center of a vast, organized operation. Bakeries, breweries, worker housing, processing facilities for thousands of laborers, all built and used and then dismantled around the pyramid, the way scaffolding comes down around a finished sculpture. Once the king was sealed inside, almost the entire support city that made the pyramid possible was taken apart or repurposed. What remains today is the only piece of the operation that was never supposed to be the lasting image of it. So even the way you get inside the Great Pyramid today is an accident of failure, not design. In 820 CE, a caliph named Al-Mamun, searching for treasure rumored to be sealed within, ordered his workers to tunnel directly into the solid stone, ignoring the true hidden entrance completely. They hammered and chiseled their way in by brute force, eventually breaking into the descending passage by chance. That rough, forced tunnel, not the pyramid's actual sealed door, is the entrance tourists walk through today. You are not experiencing the pyramid the way it was built to be experienced. You are walking through a hole someone punched into it over 1,000 years after it was sealed, hunting for gold that was already long gone, and the smooth white shell, the one part that actually was meant to be seen from a distance by anyone alive at the time, that disappeared too. Centuries later, the casing stones were stripped away block by block to build mosques and palaces in medieval Cairo. The Great Pyramid in every photograph you have ever scrolled past is the rough inner skeleton, exposed by looting and time, standing in for a finished surface that vanished long before modern Egypt existed. So when you look at an image of the pyramids today, what are you actually looking at? You are looking at failure. The failure to stay sealed. The failure to keep its skin. The failure to remain invisible to the very curiosity it was engineered to outlast. There is something almost human in that, isn't there? You build things, hoping they hold their shape. You seal off certain rooms in yourself, hoping they stay closed for good. You polish the outward surface, hoping no one ever needs to see the rough stone underneath. Think about your own version of the Torah limestone, the version of you that gets photographed, posted, scrolled past by people who will never see what's actually holding the structure up. You spend real effort on that outer layer, the part designed to be seen from a distance, while the load-bearing chambers underneath, the grief, the doubt, the things you've sealed off and hoped never to revisit, sit in the dark doing the quiet work no one applauds. And despite all of that effort, sometimes someone still finds the crawl space above the chamber you thought was sealed forever. A friend asks the wrong right question. A late night strips the casing off a feeling you'd buried for years. You did not build that room to be entered, and yet, here is someone, standing inside it anyway, the way Davison once stood inside a chamber no design ever accounted for. Maybe that's the part the pyramid still has to teach you, 4,500 years later. Not the size of it, not the mystery of how it was built. The fact that almost nothing built to last forever in secret actually stays secret. Stone erodes. casing gets stripped for someone else's mosque. Caliphs dig tunnels looking for treasure that isn't there. And eventually, someone always finds the room. The pyramids were never meant to be a spectacle. They were meant to be a machine, running in silence for an audience of stars and gods that never needed eyes to see it work. Every shaft, every sealed door, every joint between polished stones was built for something that was never going to walk up and look. You are the one who showed up anyway. You are the eyes the pyramid was never built for, standing exactly where it never expected anyone to stand, looking at a surface it was never meant to show you.